Part 2, W-VHS VCR Panasonic NV-WV10. And where we left it last time, there were problems with the mechanism when you tried to run it. The peg that drives the loading arms would pop off of the control plate thing and everything would get stuck. And that's happened repeatedly, and I couldn't work out what was going on, why was that happening. Suspecting that the back tension arm was getting stuck out there and then banging into them, but reviewing the video I took, that was obviously not happening because I could see the point that the mechanism popped out of alignment because those loading arms would jump slightly, and I can insert a piece of that. So you can see, and it happened when I pushed rewind, and it seemed like it was driving this control plate too far over. So that made me think, well, maybe it's the mode switch that's giving the wrong signal, so it's driving it too far. But after putting it back together a couple of times and poking it around, manually winding it through all the states, then trying it with the cassette loading mechanism removed, holding the cassette in switch and running through all the play modes, everything worked perfectly, couldn't find any problem. Put it back together, put tapes in, plays fine, hasn't had a problem since. I don't know why, maybe just wearing it in a bit got rid of the problem, if that was the problem. Anyway, if I try and demonstrate it now, we'll see for sure whether there is a problem or not. So let's do that. I had noticed that it sometimes detects the regular tape as a WVHS tape. So I'm not sure why that is, but the last time it happened I poked this wire which goes to the switches, and it hasn't happened since then. There are three switches in the corner of the cassette mechanism which pick up that, I don't know what that is, that which I believe identifies the WVHS, and that one there which identifies whether it's write protected or not. So it looks like the middle one should not be pushed and the other two should be pushed. So that did give me a chance though to check that when it was trying to play a regular tape as a WVHS tape, I could see an attempt of video coming out of the component outputs. Nothing comes out of the component outputs when it's playing back standard definition, which is a bit disappointing. It means it's not doing any up conversion, so you got to wire all the outputs up to it. I've got all sorts of outputs now. I put this thing on because I thought we'd run into that Macrovision problem again, but it seems we don't. So maybe this machine doesn't care about Macrovision? Dunno. Let's try play a tape, and we'll prove does this thing actually work or not. I might have to mute the audio or something, we'll see what happens. S-VHS tape. Oh, it's detected as WVHS though, so that problem has returned. But that does give me a chance to see on this thing, does the component input work? If we play that, it will kind of get the sound, but not really. And it's not getting the sound now, is it, because the input's not turned on? So there is sound there, coming and going, because it can't track on the video because there's no proper video. I'll just mute that. But I wanted to try, does this thing support the, if we put that into component mode, will it pick anything up? Yeah, I don't think so. You can hear that trying to track it. It's a pretty noisy thing trying to track. But when I had this plugged into another monitor with a component input, it did say 1080i component, so it was detecting that right. Anyway, put that back to this video input. Oh, it's doing that thing again, isn't it? Maybe it would have worked. Let's try it. Yeah, there's something weird between this thing fighting with the capture card, which I haven't worked out yet. Anyway, we're going to have to run this to that audio amplifier you saw in the previous video. We were supposed to be celebrating the 80th video in the previous video when we started looking at this machine, but I forgot about it. Anyway, happy 81st video now. And what I was planning to do, because I thought this wasn't working and I thought we'd need to get some parts, I was going to show you that I have one of the DVHS machines that we were looking at the service manual of, although it's the Japanese model. I was going to show that, we're going to try to get it running, and then, depending on what it does or doesn't have wrong with it, we're going to take some of the parts and put them in here to try and get this running, but then this ran by itself anyway, without needing to do any of that. So, go figure. But we'll cover that DVHS machine in another video. Let's plug this in again and see if it picks it up as S-VHS. There you go. So we'll be able to play it now. Has it ruined itself? Why is the picture so bad? Don't know. It's rewind was the problem before. Does that mean the time-based corrector corrects itself? Because you can choose between different modes, whether it's on or off. That's off because you can see the dots down in the bottom corner there, which disappear when you put the time-based corrector on and everything settles down. You can also control what audio you got with this, which is that's hi-fi only. That's the linear audio. It's pretty terrible. Well, it probably depends on the recording, doesn't it? It's very quiet. Or you can have both, which is a bit weird, or just hi-fi. And then you can also pick whether you want to listen to only the left channel or right channel or both, so you can do multi-language recordings. So it's coming through the S video through this thing. So that seems to be good. Let's try another. We'll try a standard VHS just for fun since we're here. Okay, picked up right, not as W. This thing does have a bit of trouble with tracking. You see there, it's establishing the tracking, but it's drifting a bit. The alignment might be a bit out. So you can push the two buttons in here, they're plus and minus buttons, and it will go into manual tracking mode, which you can then push the buttons to... Yeah, I think it's at one extent on this tape. About there. I don't think there's any display of how close to the edges you are with the tracking. Put it back on auto. There's AT on the screen when you do that. And it's auto. The jog is not that good. It's a bit... Oh, I guess it depends. If it was the one recorded by this tape, but I did notice, you see there's a bit of corruption, what was at the top of the frame there, which seems to be the time-based corrector not knowing what to fill the bad lines in with. And because if you had the time-based corrector off, that thing there, that white stuff, it wouldn't do that. And the shuttle seems to be okay. So it seems to have proven itself working now. Shall we risk it putting in a WVHS tape, and we'll try recording some high definition content on it. The only source I've got that I think is the DVHS machine, I think. So if that doesn't work, if this refuses to record it because of a copyright issue, then I'll have to work out something else. Maybe one of my graphics cards in an old computer can output component high definition, or a TV tuner decoder thing. But I have to see. We'll try the DVHS first, and I'll set that up, and we'll try using the tape. Some WVHS tapes were pre-recorded with some example stuff. I don't know if that's the ones that I've got. Perhaps I should check that, because we could try playing that first. Okay, I've got the DVHS source, and it's going through this now. Ying through the thing. You push the input selector there to set it to HD, And we'll put this tape in and see if we can get it to record. Oh. No. Really? Oh, alright then. Let's come up as W-VHS. So it's in record mode. I'll push record and it's doing that, so I guess that's what it's doing. This should be sound, although it'll be copyright. Anyway, I'll leave this recording for a while and then we'll see what happens if we can play it back. And there's also no ducking on that input because I was using it for other things. But yeah, because it has to go through the amplifier to get the component turned into HDMI, but then the amplifier doesn't put the audio into the HDMI, so I've got to capture the audio separately. So that's coming in through a thing that this thing here on another channel, but that's okay. It's from one of the other outputs of the VCR, since I got quite a few two composite NS video outputs with accompanying audio, and then the component output, and that's got its own audio. So there's 3 sets of stereo audio outputs from this machine, and there's also a headphone socket on the front with its own volume control. Great, I'll come back in a bit once we've got a bit of mileage on this, and then we'll try playing it back and see what it looks like. You can see the quality of this when we lock it into native resolution is pretty reasonable. So it's come from BES high satellite stream. Okay, we've got the D-VHS over here playing, the amplifier over there doing the conversion to HDMI, and the W-VHS machine over here in record mode. The sound level is pretty low, which I've cranked that up to the maximum, but yeah, didn't really go much higher. All hooked up there. Alright, we'll stop this recording, rewind the tape a bit, and then see whether we got lucky. We got lucky! Wow. Oh, sort of. It's not the best. Yeah, that's a shame. It kind of worked for a little bit. Yeah, I wonder what his problem is. Could be anything, couldn't it? The specific heads that are used for the WVHS could be worn out, or something to do with the other circuitry could be a bit tired. Perhaps we should try it on the other tape, the WVHS tape, just in case that's better. Okay, well I'll give the head a clean as well, and we'll try it on the WVHS tape and see if we get any kind of result there. Yeah, that flickery white thing is that's the menu screen of the DVHS machine. Get out the official WVHS tape. I don't know if this has one of the ones that is pre-recorded. It doesn't say on the packet that it is, so I guess it's not. I can't remember without doing some research for the ones that came with some example footage on them. Let's just play it first and see, in case there is something there. I was going to clean the heads, wasn't I? It doesn't appear to have anything on it. Okay, I'll clean the head just in case that's messed up. clean the head, then we'll try recording on it. Just in case, because this will be the first time activating those other heads, I guess, that do the WVHS stuff. Yeah, I didn't explain it very well in the other video. Never explain things well, I'd rather just get on with it and start touching things and taking things apart. What it looks like it does is records the two luminance tracks reasonably distanced from themselves, and then puts the chrominance data at a different angle right next to the luminance tracks. Kind of like how the hi-fi sound gets put into the video, but at a deeper level, at a different angle. I think that's what happens with the chrominance data in this WVHS system. Okay, it's pulled off quite a bit of crud there. Or we're just polishing the aluminium more. Bit to dry off. And then we'll try recording again. And we'll leave that going for a while recording. And then we'll see if that worked. Yeah, it looks like there's no down conversion going on because like if I look at the composite output from the VCR, that's what you get. It just says we're in HD mode. Although that's the input selection, isn't it? Yeah, it's not down converting to output it from the composite output. I suppose we could check that's the S video that's doing the same thing. Not surprisingly. I'll leave this recording for a while and then we'll check the playback and see what it looks like. Let's see what happened. No good, is it? Yeah, that's a shame. You see there's problems with the color part of the signal. Maybe if we change the time-based corrector. I don't know if it fixed that. Doesn't seem to. There's another thing called 3DYC, which doesn't seem to have any effect there. Oh, if I put it on manual tracking, and I can adjust that manually. Yeah, still too many dropouts. Well, it's fine now, is it? Let's see, can we jog this? That's brave. Yeah, it's doing those stripes like what we saw in that technical guide. That was backwards. So it's on manual tracking, it seems to give a better result there. Maybe the auto tracking was having trouble. Well, I guess because the picture's not very good, it's going to have a bit of trouble, isn't it? Yeah, so it looks like it would be good if it was good. Yeah, I guess the tracking was hunting, which is what made it look weird, because now it's stabilized. It's on manual tracking. If I push it either side, see it starts going bad. So that's probably the peak tracking. Probably beats a lot of VHS though, doesn't it, even in this form? I have no idea how to investigate what is actually wrong with this and why it's not giving a perfect picture. It's probably not worth buying another one to try out. I've been thinking about it depending on how this went, but since now it's just magically fixed whatever mechanical problem it has, and now it just works without having problems, mechanically at least. I don't think it's worth buying anymore because it's a bit spendy. Although at least in standard definition it seems to be a pretty good machine. Perhaps we should try recording some standard definition to this and see how it responds to that. I was going to see if we do play a standard definition tape in this, will the signal come out of the component outputs? We might as well try that now. Does not come out of that. It comes out of the... Yeah, it doesn't come out of the high definition one, which is that one on the left. Kind of looks like it's trying, I don't know. I think it's just blank. We'll try doing a standard definition recording and see what happens. A standard definition on the WVHS. Okay, we've got a recording going now. It's coming from another VCR, and you can see there nothing comes out of the yeah. So we're coming from this VCR now, which is playing just standard VHS, the Shaman King one, and then that's going in. Turns out it's set to use the S video. Yeah, nothing happened when I tried the composite input. So it's the S video, which I think you can set up. There's a menu there that you can go into with that button, and then you can configure what the inputs do. So, but what we can see there is on the right it's blank because it's not upscaling anything, so we don't get anything on the high definition one. Because there's no sound coming through from that. Anyway, it's got sound. Oh, it's because I put up the speakers. That's what's going on. Okay, I'll let that go for a couple of minutes and then we'll see whether that recorded. So it's recording standard definition WVHS mode. So there's an option there whether it's high definition, standard definition, or whether it's in the is that the 3 times longer mode? Yeah, standard or like a triple long play thing. For some reason it's got into this one touch record mode, which is something to do with pressing this button, but yeah, I don't know what that means. Anyway, it is recording. It's got the record symbol there, and the counter's going, which I reset. Is the counter going? Yeah. I need to push that button to choose. Yeah, there you go. Yes, select the counter and then you got reset and memory. And that's the recording time. Anyway, there you go, that's the stuff. Okay, we'll have a look at this, what it's recorded, and see if that worked. Pretty violent rewind. Well, it's lit up the HD light, so I guess that means it thinks it's high definition. Yeah, there you go. That's weird. That's weird. Looks like we've gone back beyond it now. Okay, there you go, that's the... It's now properly detected it, so it's coming out of the standard definition output. I'll turn that off. But, yeah, it's not the best, is it? Oh, and this will put it into manual tracking mode. It's a bit ropey. Oh, it's calmed down now. Yeah, anyway, it's suffering the same sort of problems as it was in high definition recording mode, which is not that surprising, is it? Because why would it be any different? When these things work properly, the standard definition recording in WVHS mode is an excellent recording. Anyway, that was a look at WVHS and the machine. One of the very few WVHS machines that existed. Not very many models were made. And its dodgy mechanicalness that seems a bit flimsy and prone to problems. Presumably the mode switch was a bit dodgy. I don't know. I'm guessing some capacitors have leaked. Perhaps we should take apart that bottom tray thing where the HD processing stuff's done on the bottom, which we briefly looked at on the other video, but we didn't actually take it apart. The EE video was alright though, which goes part of the way into the signal as we saw on the other thing. Now just looking in that technical guide, the EE signal description seems to be only for standard definition mode. They show there, it's got the S video, the composite input, EE electronics to electronics, but that does go through the 3D VSP TBC and then pop out again and then come out the output terminals. And I guess it decides whether it goes through it or not at that point there, does it? Yeah, it decides whether it's looking at the TBC'd version or not. Time-based corrected. Yeah, they don't tell you about the HD signals during EE mode. Anyway, there you go. That's a look at the W-VHS machine and recording and playing. Mostly working, not quite working. Let's finish off the look at the W-VHS VCR by taking a look at what was in the bottom. It's upside down here and the bottom is opened up. And you can see there is a board in there for the HD W-VHS processing called W main PWB, and it's all surface mount stuff, almost all of it, and it's also double-sided. There's more chips and things on the bottom. There's a division across there. You can see the RAM trips, so this must be the time-based corrector part. Not really sure what those are. They're probably inductors, filter networks maybe. Looks like it, brand Toco, which are known for making chokes and filters and things. Anyway, the chips on this are dated 96 and 95. So it was built in or after 96. All these, there's a lot of surface mount electrolytic capacitors here. They all look okay. I couldn't smell anything, but yeah, electrolytic capacitors from that age have a tendency to go dodgy. So there's a possibility that there's something dodgy in there, which is causing those problems that we saw. Maybe, it's difficult to know because the pass-through component video looked fine, but I don't know how far it goes. In theory it should go the whole way through the TBC and then back out, which might suggest there's a head issue. On this board here, which has the component connectors and also an audio in and out, the audio just goes straight off to this cable and up into there, but the component video goes through some buffers, and you can see there's discoloring of the board there in 3 positions, and it lines up with the 3 sets of buffer amplifier thingies that are on there, which is a bit, they must run warm. Let me take a close look at some of this stuff. Have a look over this board. And then the other side, see there's guard track around the top and the bottom of it, and then tracks that go between the boards are going on internal layers. See on the bottom there, they're not traveling across the bottom, they're going through on an internal layer. So there's the other side. And there's a connection up there. The main component input and outputs are up here, there and there, and then there's other shielded connections off the side there, there, and up there, which will be coming from the head amplifiers and the other video circuits for standard definition. And the stuff that's on the bottom, not much on the bottom of that side, but on this side there's a few things, quite a lot of passive components and various transistory looking things, and then a few more ICs. And so I think that's the end there. That's at the moment as far as I'm going to go on this VCR. None of these capacitors have visible leaking. We didn't see any leaking capacitors. It's possible this machine wasn't used very much. Maybe that problem that it had started early on and it's been sitting around for a long time. I'm guessing the tape that was stuck in it when I got it was put in by someone more recently testing it before selling it to see what happened, and it just got stuck in there because the mechanism's jammed up. And I say that because the tape wasn't threaded up. It was in the tape cassette and the loading arms were out, so yeah, it can't have been in there when the problem first happened. So whether or not I pursue getting another machine so that we can try and get this one fixed, or try out another one to see what the WVHS is like, I don't know. I don't think it's really worth it, because we've seen all inside this machine, looked at the mechanics, tried to use it, looked at the tapes. Perhaps we'll move on to DVHS. Is that a good idea? Well, you can let me know if you want to see more WVHS stuff, but I'd have to buy more parts to do it. This thing here was quite difficult to lay down because these cables are only just long enough for it to fit down in this direction. You can't have either of them up on their ends or around another way. So that was WVHS. Hopefully that was interesting and something a bit different.